You're 14 years old, kneeling on a cold stone floor, pressing a rag against your father's leg while he bleeds through his breeches. The surgeon arrives an hour late, drunk, and gets the wrong leg. Your father loses the right one anyway. The surgeon loses nothing. Not his license, not his reputation, not even his dinner. You watch him wipe his hands on a dirty cloth and pocket his fee, and something hardens in your chest, like iron cooling in a mold. You could have done better. You know you could. The problem is, you're a girl, and in London, 1842, that's the same as saying you're furniture. Pretty, maybe, useful sometimes, but nobody asks the furniture what it thinks. Your mother calls it a phase. Your aunt calls it dangerous. The medical textbook you stole from your father's shelf calls it anatomy, and you call it the only thing that makes sense in a world designed to make no sense for you. You read it cover to cover 3 times. You memorize the diagrams. You practice stitches on leather scraps until your fingers move without thinking. At night you dream of operating theaters. In the morning you wake up and remember you're not allowed inside one. By 16, your father is dead. Your mother remarries fast, a merchant who smells like tallow and doesn't notice you exist, which turns out to be the greatest gift he ever gives you. You take your father's coat, his hat, his razor. You practice his walk in the mirror until yours disappears. Then you cut your hair with the same scissors you use for sutures, and you don't cry, not even a little. Crying is a luxury you've decided not to afford. You arrive at Edinburgh Medical School in the autumn of 1844, calling yourself James Hartley. You've rehearsed the name so many times, it sits in your mouth like a real tooth. The registrar barely looks up. He stamps your papers. You're in, just like that. Except nothing about this is just like that. Your hands are shaking so hard you have to sit on them on the carriage ride back. The first week nearly kills you before anyone touches a scalpel. The dormitory, the communal washroom, the way men stand at urinals and talk about women like they're livestock grades at market. You learn to wake up before everyone else. You learn to wash fast and dress faster. You learn that men don't actually look at each other that closely, which is both a relief and a damning indictment of the gender you're pretending to be. Classes are another battlefield. You know the answers. You always know the answers. But you learn quickly that knowing and speaking are 2 different weapons, and only one of them keeps you invisible. You raise your hand less than you want to. You let slower men get credit for ideas you whispered first. Every time it happens, you add it to a list in your head. A long list. You keep it there for warmth on cold nights. By 20, you're James Hartley in every room you enter. The accent, the posture, the practiced boredom men wear like armor. You've got it all. Your classmates think you're quiet. Your professors think you're competent. One of them, a red-faced man named Drummond, tells you that you lack passion. You smile and say nothing. You are made of nothing but passion. It's just that passion in a woman's body, wearing a dead man's coat, has learned exactly when to shut its mouth. Your first surgery as a qualified physician is on a dock worker with a shattered forearm. He's been waiting 3 hours. The junior surgeon assigned to him is eating a pie in the corridor. You scrub in, pick up the forceps, and work. Clean, precise, methodical. The kind of hands that don't shake because they've been practicing since they were 14 years old, pressing rags against a dying man's leg. The dock worker keeps his arm. He shakes your hand after, calls you the best doctor he's ever had. You almost tell him right then. Almost. London swallows James Hartley whole and asks no questions. You take a position at St. Bart's as a junior physician. The work is relentless. 16-hour days, cholera outbreaks, patients lined up like broken furniture waiting to be repaired. You repair them, better than most. Word spreads quietly, the way good things do in places that don't want to celebrate them. Patients start asking for you by name, James, the quiet one with the steady hands. Then comes the thing nobody prepares you for, friendship. A senior surgeon named Aldous Fletcher takes a liking to you, invites you to dinner, introduces you to his wife. Wants to know where you're from, who your people are, whether you've got a girl waiting somewhere. You build a version of James that's just real enough to be believed and just vague enough to survive inspection. It works, mostly. There are nights you sit across from Aldous eating roast beef and realize you've forgotten what your own name sounds like. Not the name, your name, the one your mother gave you. By 30, you've seen things that would break most people in half. A child burned beyond recognition, a woman who swallowed glass because the alternative felt worse, A man who came in for a cough and left in a box. You do not break. You bend, slightly, in private, and then you straighten back up and go again. This is the job. This is the thing you chose over everything else, and you would choose it again every single morning, which is good, because every single morning is another chance to be found out. The close calls accumulate like scar tissue, a nurse who lingers too long while you're washing up. On a colleague who jokes that you've never once visited a brothel. What's wrong with you, James? A patient who grabs your wrist and says your hands don't feel like a man's hands. You laugh it off each time. You develop a talent for deflection that rivals your talent for surgery, and your talent for surgery is extraordinary. At 35, you perform an operation that gets written up in the Lancet, a splenectomy under conditions that should have been fatal. You're cited as a surgeon of remarkable nerve and unusual precision. Aldous frames the article, hangs it in his office, tells anyone who'll listen that he knew you'd be great. You stand there and smile and feel something complicated move through you. Pride and grief and fury all knotted together so tight you couldn't separate them with a scalpel. Then at 38, it nearly ends. And a younger physician, sharp-eyed and ambitious, starts watching you too closely, asks questions with the specific weight of someone who already suspects the answers. You see it in the way he tilts his head when you speak, the way he shows up in places you didn't expect him. 2 weeks of that, and you transfer to a hospital across the city. You don't say goodbye to Aldous. You can't, because James would have a reason, but you don't. Not one you can say out loud. The new hospital is grimmer, the patients poorer, the resources thinner. You prefer it. Less scrutiny, more work. You spend the next 4 years doing the kind of medicine that doesn't make it into journals because the patients don't have names anyone important recognizes. Mothers from the East End, factory workers missing fingers, children with lungs full of coal dust. And you treat them all with the same precision you used on the case that made the Lancet, because the work doesn't care who's watching. Neither do you. You're 42 when your body starts keeping score. Years of binding your chest, walking wrong, sleeping in positions that protect your secret rather than your spine. Your back aches in a specific way that tells you the debt is coming due. You start training a young physician, barely 22, who reminds you of yourself in ways that make you ache. You give him everything you know without ever telling him where it came from. You die at 54, not dramatically, not on an operating table, in your rooms, quietly, with your father's coat folded at the foot of the bed and 40 years of surgical notes stacked in the corner. The woman who comes to prepare your body figures it out within minutes. The hospital board convenes an emergency meeting. There's talk of erasing your records, pulling your name from the files, pretending James Hartley never existed. They don't manage it. Too many patients remember your hands. Too many cases bear your signature. You can't erase 40 years of someone who was that good at keeping people alive. Aldous, old now and shaking, refuses to sign the erasure order. He says simply that he doesn't care who you were. He cares what you did, and what you did was save lives. Hundreds of them, maybe more. Nobody counts. Nobody ever counted. That was always the point.